We are taught from a young age that the more we do, the more we'll have, and that the more we have, the happier we'll be. Control becomes a virtue. Planning, achieving, optimizing, hustling. These are the mantras of a world obsessed with cause and effect. But have you ever paused long enough to ask, is this effort truly bringing peace? Or is it simply layering more noise onto the quiet truth that's trying to reach you? The illusion of control is seductive. It gives us a false sense of safety, a predictable container in a world that otherwise feels like chaos. But life isn't a machine to be mastered. It's a symphony to be heard, a dance to be felt. The harder we grip, the more elusive peace becomes. Like trying to trap sunlight in our hands, our frantic attempts to make things happen often block the very joy we're chasing. Quantum awareness begins by inviting us to loosen this grip. It whispers that there's a deeper order, one that doesn't scream for dominance, but hums beneath our awareness like an ancient lullaby. Reality doesn't demand your control, it mirrors your essence. And that essence is often buried under layers of fear, identity, and unmet expectation. Think about your own life. How often are your actions driven by a need to control an outcome? We check our phones compulsively. We plan weeks in advance. We fear discomfort and avoid uncertainty like the plague. But peace doesn't come from mastering the external. It comes from surrendering the need to. There's a critical shift that must occur in the way we see the world. Most of us believe we live inside a linear story. I do this, so I get that. But that's a very Newtonian way to live. Cause and effect, force and resistance. Quantum philosophy introduces something radical: entanglement, non-locality, uncertainty. It suggests that the most profound changes happen not through control, but through coherence. What does that mean for the way we live? It means that peace doesn't require perfect circumstances. It requires an aligned presence. You've likely felt it before, if even for a moment. Maybe while walking alone under the stars, or holding a loved one in silence, or gazing out a train window with no particular destination in mind. That moment when time stretches, when your mind quiets, and something deeper arises. That is peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally present. To live with quantum awareness is to stop micromanaging the universe and start listening to it. It's to realize that every time we panic, chase, or manipulate, we're affirming a belief that something is missing. But what if nothing was missing? What if everything that's truly essential is already inside you, waiting not to be earned, but remembered? Let's pause here and ask, where in your life are you still chasing something you don't believe you deserve? What outcome are you forcing instead of flowing toward? Peace begins the moment you question the chase. This is not a call to apathy. This is a call to alignment. Action still matters, but when it flows from awareness instead of fear, it becomes powerful. Life responds to your energetic signal more than your spoken words or your to-do lists. And the signal you send is clearest when you're still, when you've stopped grasping, when you simply are. This is the first step inward, dismantling the myth that you have to fight your way to joy. You don't. You only have to stop running from yourself long enough to feel what's already there. Beneath the striving is silence. And in that silence lives a truth far more intelligent than your most calculated plan. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You're simply being invited to remember. Peace was never something you find. It's something you return to, the moment you stop resisting your own being. And now that you've taken the first step, can you sit with that truth, even for a breath? Quantum physics tells us something stunning. The act of observation itself influences the outcome. In scientific terms, particles behave differently when they are being watched. But in human terms, this opens a much deeper insight. Your awareness isn't just passive. It's participatory. What you observe, you energize. What you focus on, you invite. This is not metaphor, it's the nature of consciousness. And while many would dismiss quantum language as esoteric or metaphorical, its implications are profoundly practical. You are not merely walking through a world of fixed objects and inevitable outcomes. You are swimming in a field of probabilities, and your attention, it collapses those probabilities into experience. Consider this. Every day you're bombarded with thousands of possible stimuli, but what you notice, what you pay attention to, shapes your reality. When you expect rejection, you see closed doors. When you expect magic, you find it in the smallest details. You think you're seeing what is, but really, you're seeing what your internal world is conditioned to recognize. You are both the camera and the projector. And your consciousness is the light. But how does this awareness help you find peace? Because it allows you to stop living as though life is happening to you. When you begin to see that your focus is generative, you no longer walk through the world as a victim of chance, luck, or karma. You walk as a conscious observer, one whose inner state is the tuning dial for outer experience. Think about how your day shifts when you wake up angry versus when you wake up curious. The events might be the same, but the way you perceive and receive them changes entirely. Your awareness becomes the filter through which life flows. In essence, you're not reacting to reality, you're reacting to your story of it. Quantum awareness isn't about becoming perfect in your thinking. It's not about manifesting yachts or money through sheer thought. It's about becoming aware that the most subtle shifts in attention, belief, and emotion reconfigure your entire energetic signature. And that signature shapes what you meet in the world. You've probably experienced this in relationships. When you feel insecure, you read silence as rejection. When you feel centered, you read the same silence as space. The person didn't change, your observer did. The lens through which you viewed them adjusted. And thus, the emotional reality transformed. That's not trivial. That's the key to your liberation. Let me ask, where in your life are you interpreting events through the lens of past pain? What would shift if you observed the same situation from a place of worthiness instead of fear? The field is infinite, but your lens determines the view. So, what happens when we begin observing from presence rather than programming? Miracles. You start to notice beauty you'd long ignored. People respond to your energy instead of your words. Opportunities appear where once there were walls, not because the world changed, but because you changed the part of you that meets it. This is not magic, it's magnetism. What you embody, you attract, not just psychologically, but energetically. And here's the most freeing part. You don't have to fix your life to feel peace. You only have to witness it differently. The more you become the aware witness rather than the panic participant, the more gracefully life aligns, not because you controlled it, but because your inner coherence made outer flow inevitable. You are not a mistake in the system, you are the system realizing itself. So today, ask yourself, where is your attention? Are you feeding chaos or clarity? Are you observing from fear or from the still center of awareness? Because the way you observe shapes what you call reality. And peace, dear soul, begins the moment you observe yourself without judgment. That's when the field shifts. That's when reality bends, not to your will, but to your witnessing. You've always had the power. You were simply looking in the wrong direction. Let's talk about emotion, not as a side effect of life, but as a core architect of it. Your emotions are not random. They are messengers, frequencies, and signals, like music playing through the body of your consciousness. Each one vibrates with a particular note, a particular energetic signature, and like attracts like. You don't just feel emotions, you broadcast them. And the universe, in turn, echoes that signal back to you. This is the hidden mechanism behind manifestation. You can write affirmations on sticky notes and speak abundance into the mirror all day long. But if the frequency you live in is still shame, scarcity, or doubt, the words will bounce off the walls of your own resistance. The signal wins. every time. To shift your external reality, you must first tune your inner field, not through repression, but through conscious attention, through honest presence. This is emotional alchemy, learning to sit with the heavy, not to be consumed by it, but to feel it fully and allow it to dissolve. You are not meant to run from your emotional states. You are meant to become intimate with them, to recognize them as clues pointing toward what you truly believe about yourself and your world. If fear shows up, ask what it's trying to protect. If sadness lingers, ask what it's mourning. Emotions are not your enemies. They are your roadmap. And yet most of us were never taught how to feel. We were taught to perform, to suppress, to override, to distract. But you cannot fulfill field. The quantum responds to energy, not pretense. And if the energy within you is chaotic, unresolved, afraid, that is the vibration that constructs your outer experience. So how do we shift this? We start by becoming emotionally honest. We start by feeling what we've been avoiding. We cry, we rage, we tremble, and then we breathe through it. We bring presence to the very parts we once abandoned. We reclaim them. We hold ourselves as we might hold a child. That is how we heal. And as we heal, something remarkable begins to happen. The frequencies shift. What once felt heavy starts to lift. What once felt blocked begins to open. You become more magnetic, not by pretending to be positive, but by actually clearing the static from your signal. Emotions are not weakness. They are energy in motion. And when you honor them, they move. When they move, they transform. And when they transform, your life changes because your vibration does. This isn't just emotional theory. Think about those moments in your life when you were deeply at peace. Didn't the world feel softer? Didn't the right people show up effortlessly? That wasn't a coincidence. That was coherence. Ask yourself now, what emotional frequency are you living in today? What patterns do you keep meeting in your relationships, your work, your self-talk? These aren't accidents, they're echoes, and you have the power to shift the source. The goal is not to be emotionally perfect. The goal is to become emotionally fluent, to recognize that your feelings are your compass, not your curse, to listen to their direction without being swallowed by their storm. You are a tuning fork, and the world around you is listening. Every thought, every emotion, every breath, an instrument. When you play in harmony, the symphony of your life begins to change. This is the essence of emotional frequency. Not to fix yourself, but to feel yourself. Not to ascend away from the pain, but to embrace it long enough for it to tell you what it came to say. So today, take a moment and ask, what is the dominant feeling in my body right now? Where did it begin? What might shift if I loved this part of myself instead of judging it? Because when you change your emotional tone, the song of your life rewrites itself. And it begins, as all transformation does, with the courage to feel. So many of us are living scripts we didn't write. We inherited them from parents, from teachers, from trauma, from culture. These internal narratives become the architecture of our identity, silently dictating what we believe we're allowed to have, be, or feel. And until we question them, we keep manifesting the same story with different scenery. This is why transformation doesn't begin with strategy. It begins with self-honesty. Before we can shift the world we see, we have to examine the lens we're seeing it through. And often, that lens is fogged with old pain, distorted truths, and outdated roles we never consented to play. Quantum awareness invites us to peel these stories back, to ask, not with judgment, but with radical curiosity. Whose voice is this? That voice that says you're too much or not enough or always behind. Is it yours? Or is it an echo? These echoes are energetic imprints. They influence your frequency just like unhealed wounds influence the way you walk. You can't see them directly, but their effects are everywhere. The way you flinch when someone raises their voice, the way you sabotage closeness, the way you doubt good news. You're not broken, you're conditioned. And conditioning can be unwound, but not through violence, not through force, through witnessing, through choosing, moment by moment, to return to presence instead of pattern. This is where the true work begins. Not in controlling thoughts, but in becoming aware of the thinker. Not in resisting your emotions, but in becoming the space that can hold them. When you learn to observe your inner monologue without fusing to it, something miraculous happens. Space opens up. And in that space, possibility lives. You begin to write new scripts, not from the mind, but from the heart. Not based on fear of what happened, but from vision of what could unfold. Presence becomes your portal. It's not some lofty ideal, it's a practical shift in attention. When you're truly present, you're no longer lost in mental time travel. You're no longer rehearsing the past or anticipating the future. You're here, breathing, noticing, creating, and that is where power lives, in the now. This doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you no longer interpret it through the filter of your wound. It means you take back authorship. You realize that the way you speak to yourself is the frequency your body absorbs and your life responds to. Ask yourself this: if your inner voice spoke out loud to someone you love, would it be kind? Would it be patient? Would it be inspiring? Or would it be cold, critical, afraid? We teach others how to treat us based on how we treat ourselves. And how we treat ourselves is usually based on the story we've accepted as truth. So let's rewrite that story. Start small. Start with one belief you know is outdated. Maybe it's, "I always mess things up." Maybe it's, "Nothing good lasts." Don't try to banish it. Just notice it. Observe how it feels. Speak to it with compassion. "I see you. I know where you came from, but I'm not you anymore." This is how the script begins to shift. Not by shouting new affirmations over old wounds, but by gently holding the wound until it softens and lets go. The quantum doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be coherent, to align what you think, feel, and believe. That coherence is what bends reality. You are the author of your vibration. You are the narrator of your next chapter. So ask yourself now, what story am I still living that no longer fits who I've become? Who would I be without it? That silence you just felt, that pause, that was the space where your new reality begins. Step into it gently. The universe is already listening. Stillness. It's not just the absence of noise, it's the birthplace of alignment. In a world that glorifies urgency and speed, stillness is radical. It is a revolution. And more than that, it is the very state through which quantum awareness takes root and becomes real. All creation begins in the quiet. The seed doesn't sprout with noise, it unfolds in the still dark of the earth. Likewise, the most profound shifts in your life don't start in chaos, they begin in silence. In those breathless, ego-less spaces where you're not trying to be anything, just being. Stillness is not a void, it is full of guidance, full of clarity, full of intelligence that your rational mind cannot manufacture. It is where your vibration harmonizes with the greater field. And in that harmony, life begins to respond, not to your words, but to your resonance. Many people misunderstand manifestation. They chase outcomes like butterflies, hoping to capture fulfillment in the net of their next achievement. But true manifestation isn't about chasing. It's about aligning. It's about becoming the kind of vessel through which what is meant for you can arrive. Think about this. The ocean does not struggle to reach the shore. The sun does not strain to rise. Nature flows because it is not trying to be anything other than what it is. And so too must we learn to return to our essential being. Not our role, not our identity, but the awareness beneath it all. From this place, decisions are no longer frantic. Desires are no longer desperate. They are simply invitations, and life becomes less about proving and more about allowing. You've likely had moments like this, moments where everything felt effortless, where time disappeared, and you felt in tune with something far greater. That was stillness speaking. That was your true nature emerging. But to access this stillness, you must first get comfortable with not knowing. You must befriend the gap between intention and outcome. You must sit in the ambiguity and resist the urge to force clarity, because forcing is fear. Stillness is trust. And trust, like peace, cannot be faked. So how do we begin to cultivate stillness? Start small. Breathe. Feel. Listen. Not for answers, but for presence. Observe without rushing to interpret. Let the moment be what it is, without trying to bend it to your will. The irony is, the more you surrender your need to control, the more influence you actually gain. Not over others, but over your inner state. And that inner state is everything. It is the tuning fork that draws experiences into your life, not just metaphorically, but energetically. The calmer the signal, the clearer the reflection. So here is the real secret. You manifest not by thinking harder, but by being quieter. When your inner world rests in stillness, your energy becomes irresistible. You stop chasing, you start attracting, not from need, but from wholeness. Stillness is not the end of the journey. It's the place from which the journey becomes sacred. Ask yourself now, when was the last time I did nothing? Not scrolled, not planned, not solved, but simply sat with myself. What might I discover in that quiet? What truth might rise when I stop drowning it out with noise? You do not need to become more. You need to become still enough to remember who you already are. Because in stillness, there is no striving. There is only alignment. There is only truth. There is only peace. And from that place, miracles become inevitable. You've journeyed through the subtle terrain of consciousness, the myths of control, the creative power of attention, the vibration of emotion, the rewrite of inner stories, and the sacred stillness where peace finally finds you. This wasn't just a philosophical exploration. It was a homecoming. Quantum awareness isn't something you achieve. It's something you remember. It's the gentle yet powerful realization that you are not a machine to fix or a project to finish. You are a field of energy, constantly co-creating with the universe around you. Not through striving, but through resonance. Not through noise, but through presence. So pause, breathe, feel, and ask yourself, what if everything you've been chasing is already quietly circling you, waiting for you to slow down long enough to receive it? Begin there. Begin now. If this message stirred something inside you, an ache, a clarity, a soft yes, don't keep it silent. Share it, reflect on it, let it ripple. And if you feel called, leave a comment. Let us know what part of you is waking up. Because the world doesn't just need more answers, it needs more awakened souls.